So I've been wanting to make a video on this guy here. This guy is Nero. I've had him for about 2 months now, and I've been working on getting him to trust me, and I'm also learning to trust him. So about 2 months back, I was approached by the person that I got 4 of my rats from, and she said that she found out that someone that she knew was he had 3 rats that were being kept in a 10-gallon tank. The only thing in that tank was their food, their water, and a hut, and also some shredded paper for bedding. And that was it. So she asked if I would be willing to take them in either temporarily or permanently, whichever one I was willing to do. And I told her that I wasn't really sure because I already had 6 rats. And I was still trying to make sure that I could handle 6 rats because starting off when I first got rats again, I started off with 2 rats, Oswald and William. And then after a while, after I got their cage built, I got 2 more rats, which I knew I would be wanting more than just 2 rats. So I got 2 more rats, Bolt and Calcifer. That put me to 4 rats. I've never had 4 rats before. The most I've ever had was 2. And then I was making sure that I could handle 4 rats, that I was doing everything responsibly, and that I could feed them and take care of them and have time to spend with them and all that kind of stuff. I ended up getting 2 more rats from her because she couldn't find homes for 2 boys. She had bred her rat and she had homes for all of the little girls, but she couldn't find homes for the little boys. So I took the 2 boys in, which are Mocha and Wilbur. And that put me to 6 rats, and so I was trying to make sure that I could handle 6 rats, and taking in 3 more, which was, I don't remember what kind of time frame that was after I got my last 2, but it was still really really fresh after that. That put me to 9 rats. So I ended up telling her that basically as long as they're not aggressive, I would take them in and give them a better house. So she went back to where they were and she handled them a little bit. She said they're not aggressive. They like to nibble on fingers a little bit. They're really shy because they haven't been socialized or handled a whole lot, if at all. And I said that was fine if they're shy, as long as they're not aggressive. So I took the 3 rats in, put them in this cage, and after a week of having them, I realized that they were fighting all the time. And I thought that was really weird that they would be fighting, because I was told that they had been living together since they were 5 weeks old, up until the point that I had them. When I got them, they were just under 6 months old. So I didn't know why they would be fighting all the time if they'd been living with each other that whole time. But I think what was going on, because of their age, all of their hormones were coming in, they were becoming teenagers, so they were fighting to be top rat, basically. This one here, Nero, was the main instigator. He had the most amount of testosterone flowing through his body, so he was picking fights with everyone. There was another rat that he wasn't as bad as Nero, but he was definitely kind of more on the aggressive side. But Nero here was the worst. He was the worst offender. He had the most amount of testosterone. So So when I first got them, Nero was displaying some behavior that I thought I associated it with a rat that had gone neurotic. And I had tried looking up what the behavioral effects on a rat's brain would be when they're deprived of that mental stimulation, because he lived in a glass tank for basically his whole life. So I thought it did something to him mentally, and there's not really a whole lot of information out there for the behavioral and psychological effects that has on a rat. So then I started looking up what it was that he was doing. I was typing his behavior into Google, and so what he was doing was I thought he was digging at the cage, and then he was rubbing his body alongside the cage. He would walk alongside the cage and rub his body, and he would do some huffing and puffing. When I looked that up, that is extreme scent marking. He wasn't digging, he was wiping his paws. To me, it looked like digging, but after I saw that it's rubbing his paws on stuff, I watched more closely, and I could see that, yeah, he's rubbing his paws. He's not digging, he's rubbing his paws. They have scent glands on their paws. They have scent glands like around their shoulder area. So he was leaving his scent everywhere. A week after I got the 3 rats, I had to separate Nero from the other 2 because they were fighting too much and they were causing injuries on each other. All 3 rats would have wounds on them. Not really bad wounds, but they all had wounds. They all had bite wounds. So I separated them. By the way, Nero, where he got his name, my mom gave me the suggestion because I thought he was acting neurotically. Nero is short for neurotic. After I found out that his behavior was due to extreme hormonal, or his hormones, I realized that I needed to get him neutered. And it did suggest online that when a rat displays the behavior that Nero was displaying, that almost always a neuter is needed to fix it. So I don't think I scheduled a neuter for him exactly at that time because I wasn't really sure who around me could do a neuter or was knowledgeable in rat neuters necessarily. So I didn't schedule anything yet, but there was a time that I was cleaning out his cage. I was cleaning the poop from his cage. I was picking it up, just doing some spot cleaning, and Nero was following my hand around, and he bit my finger, but he didn't bite it to break the skin. He just kind of bit it, and it was an uncomfortable amount of pressure. So I kind of started avoiding him a little bit at that point. And then there was another day that I was giving him a clean towel. I was putting a clean towel in his cage. I took out his old soiled towel, gave him a new one, and as I was placing his new towel, he came up to me and chomped down on my arm. And he would not let go. He started biting harder and tugging. I had to actually use my other hand to pull him off of me. And that was the day that I scheduled his neuter. And I figured that if the neuter went bad, at least I gave it a try. But as far as I was concerned, he was too aggressive to live with anyone. It wouldn't have been a good life for him to stay living in a cage with the extreme amount of hormones that he was feeling and to never really be handled by a human. And like I said, I had to separate him from his other 2 brothers, so he was by himself. I figured trying that neuter was my only option, and crossed my fingers that it went well. His neuter was about 7 weeks ago now, and I was told that it would take about 4 to 6 weeks for me to notice a change in his behavior. I've definitely noticed a change in his behavior. You can see that I've been feeding him. I can put my hand in the cage and he won't bite me, and I find that to be really exciting. Although I'm still nervous, even though I've been working with him every single day for the past, I think, about 2.5 weeks. We've been working together. I've been learning to trust him. He's been learning to trust me. I'm still a little nervous. I'm definitely more comfortable with handling him, but there's still a part of me that's nervous. His other 2 brothers, I did find someone who was willing to rehome them for me. I didn't really have a good situation to keep them in, because this Nero is in my main spare cage. I do have another spare cage, but it's too small to house an adult rat in long term. So this is the only cage that I have for another adult rat, preferably rats, more than one. But I couldn't keep Nero, as I said, I couldn't keep Nero with any other rats until his testosterone had died down. And then I wanted to work with him so that I could handle him. Anytime I would try to touch him, whether it be his tail, his body, anywhere, it would scare him so much that he would become airborne. He would jump up into the air because it scared him so much being touched. So I've been working with him on that. He still doesn't love to be touched, but he doesn't jump anymore when I do it. Sometimes it might startle him and he might run away a little bit, but he doesn't jump anymore. I've been working with him on getting used to being picked up. And for some reason, I feel like he tolerates being picked up better than he does being pet. Not really sure why. In order to pick him up, though, originally I was trying to pick him up overhand, to put my hand, I was trying to show you, but I guess I didn't work with food on my fingers still. I was trying to pick him up from the top of his body, the way I pick up all my other rats, and the way how most people pick up their rats. At least I think most people pick up the rats that way. And then I remembered, well, let me back up a little bit. Anytime I would try to pick him up that way, he would squeak and jump and run away. Now, the squeaking and the jumping would startle me, and it would cause me to pull my hand away. And I knew that that wasn't good, because rats can learn that they can behave in a certain way to get the desired result. His desired result at this point is to be left alone. He doesn't want me touching him. He's not socialized like that. And I didn't really want him to learn that. So I was trying to figure out how am I going to do this? How am I going to push past my reflex to pull away when he jumps and squeaks? And then I remembered reading or hearing. I've watched a lot of rat socialization videos, and I've read a lot of stuff. But all that was basically during a time that I didn't necessarily need the information. So somehow I was able to pull out of my memory that it's really scary for rats for rats that aren't socialized like that, when you pick them up from on top of them. And that for that type of rat, it's best if you pick them up from underneath, like under their belly, and pick them up. So I tried that approach instead. And that worked so well. I was so happy that I remembered that information, because he still didn't like it, but he didn't jump and he didn't squeak. So it was easier for me. I didn't have to push past any type of reflex to pull away. He tolerated being picked up that way. He still kind of tries to run from me, and I still kind of have to corner him. but it works a lot better. Now, this is my first experience really having to work with a rat like this. Anytime I've ever had a rat, they've just already been friendly or friendly enough, I guess. I've never had a rat attack me before. I've never had a rat try to bite me. Just the way how Nero is, this is the first time I've had a rat like that. So I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't have any experience behind me. I'm doing everything for the first time, and I feel like for not really knowing what I'm doing, I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. I still feel like I could be doing better. I still feel like there's something that I'm missing. I'm probably not working with him as often as I should be, but I'm also really busy. Between my full-time job, I also started a part-time job. I also have to let the other rats out for their playtime separately than Nero, because they have not been introduced. And then there's sleeping, and then there's my cat. My cat is very needy. Anytime I'm not with her, she's very unhappy. So trying to juggle everything combined with finding time to work with Nero, it's very difficult. So I'm doing the best that I can, but I still feel like I could be doing better. But the fact that I've been working with him, I think it's been about 2.5 weeks now. I don't remember exactly when I first decided to take the leap to put my hand in the cage to see if he would or wouldn't bite me. I don't remember when that day was. But I do know that I waited at least 4 weeks after his neuter, and it's almost been 7 weeks now. So it's been at the most, it's been 3 weeks that I've been working with him. And I can touch him. He doesn't love being touched. I can pick him up. He doesn't love being picked up. I can pet him. He doesn't love being pet. But I can do all of those things. So I feel like we've made a huge improvement. Nero's made a huge improvement. My next step, I feel like we've made enough progress that I can try to start introducing him to my other 6 boys. I'm really nervous about doing that because I've never done an adult to adult rat introduction. I've always introduced baby rats to adult rats. And I know Nero still has, even though he's still pretty scared and, I guess just scared, he's also really, I'm not sure what word I'm looking for. He's very bold still. He's still very interested in coming out of the cage. Even though it scares him to come out of the cage, he wants to come out of the cage. He just has a lot of courage behind that being scared. So I'm nervous that that's going to cause problems with him being introduced to the other rats. When Nero is out of the cage and playing, the other rats can see him, and 3 of them start to they fluff up and start huffing and puffing in the general direction of Nero. So it could just be that because they're in their cage, they're getting territorial of inside their cage. But it also makes me feel more uneasy about introducing Nero to them. I do know that they need to be introduced on neutral territory. There was a day that I tried having Nero, Oswald, and Mocha out in the play area at the same time, which is an area that Oswald and Mocha would have seen as their own, but for Nero it was new territory. Even though it was new territory for Nero, he still fluffed up and went after Mocha and went after Oswald. So that makes me feel like even in new territory, there's going to be a lot of problems between Nero and possibly my other rats. They might have issues too, I'm not sure. I have tried, even though Nero's by himself in this cage, and he's been by himself for way longer than I'm comfortable with, I have tried doing things to make his life more interesting. I do change up his cage every so often. It's harder to change up his cage because these doors are actually kind of small, so it's difficult to get. A lot of the things that I have to put in a rat cage, they won't fit through these doors. Only some things will, so that makes it harder. The other part is when I try to give Nero things to stimulate his mind, because his mind has never been stimulated before, he doesn't know what to do with what I give him. I've tried giving him a treat ball, and he just let it sit there. He didn't know there were treats inside. He didn't know to dig at it and to open it up or anything like that. I think it sat there for about a week untouched before I took it out of his cage. But I do give him fresh fruits and vegetables anytime I give them to my other boys. When I had my other boys go pea fishing, I gave Nero his own little bowl of water with some fruits and vegetables inside of it. So a little mini version of pea fishing. I'm not sure what else I've done. And then, of course, just working with him. I mean, that gives him something different to do than just sitting in a cage. But you can see that, well, maybe you can't see, but you can probably tell just by how I've told you his behavior was previously, that he has become very comfortable with me. He's fine with coming up to my finger and eating food off my finger. It's more difficult for me to get him out of the cage, to work with him outside of the cage. Most of how I've been working with him has been inside of the cage. Also, a lot of the things that I do with him, he tolerates whatever I do, like petting him. He'll tolerate me petting him if he's licking food off my finger. But once there's no more food on my finger, he doesn't want to be pet anymore, and he'll run away. Or same with being picked up. But I'm trying to work with him on that. But my main goal now is getting him introduced to my other boys. I do know that with rats, it's a lot of repetition, doing the same thing over and over and over again, and that's how they learn. And then also giving them rewards. And I know that a lot of it is dependent on the individual rat, how he or she is receptive, how receptive he or she is to what it is that you're doing. But I'm hoping that in a future cage tour video, Nero will be part of the other boys in the cage. I'm very scared to make that leap, and I don't necessarily, I have an idea of what I'm doing because I've done 2 introductions previously, but with baby rats to adult rats. But I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to wait until I have a couple days off, which right now is very difficult for me to have a full day off, let alone 2 in a row. But I think I need to wait until I have at least 2 days off in a row so that I can monitor the situation and hopefully introduce him appropriately to the other boys. Also, the other boys, Bolt and Calcifer are about 7 months old, and Wilbur and Mocha are about 3.5 months old. I don't know about Mocha, but Wilbur is definitely showing signs of him having his hormones, his teenage hormones coming through. Wilbur is one of the rats that will puff up, and he actually was rubbing his paws and his body alongside the cage when he saw Nero outside of the cage. And I'm not really sure how to take that, if it's because Wilbur was in his own home, so he was being territorial of his home, or if that's something that's going to cause problems. Bolt and Calcifer both puff up. Like I said, they're 7 months old, so their hormones have been coming through. Calcifer's been neutered recently. I think he's 2 weeks in from when he got neutered. But Bolt is not neutered. And I don't know if that's going to cause any issues. The fact that he might feel like he needs to prove himself more. But I guess we're going to see how it goes, and cross my fingers that at least there are no injuries or nothing too severe, because I would really love for Nero to be a part of the pack. Sorry, Nero got really boring. He just kind of went up here and started sleeping. You can't see it, but his eyes are still open. But anyway, that's Nero, and that's Nero's story. And even if I haven't been able to give him the best of life in this cage, he still has a better life than what he previously had. And hopefully his brothers are doing really well in their new home. I guess that's all I have to say. If anyone has any questions or comments or tips or anything, I would appreciate anything that you can help me out with, because I'm really nervous for the next step. Talk to you guys later.